Hello, my name is Armando Salinas, and this is the code to my project. I created a tic-tac-toe game, and the main function would be shown right here. It consists of the object instance created from class 1, which is this class right here. Now, I'll demonstrate how the program works. So it first asks if this will be a two-player game. I'll go ahead and answer yes to that. At this point, it'll flip a coin to decide who goes first, either the player or or actually, this is a two-player game, so right, it's either player 1 or player 2. Player 1 gets to choose heads or tails. I'll choose heads. Heads is the winner, so player 1 does go first. Now, player 1, since they wanted the toss, will also get to choose either X or O as their character. I'll go ahead and choose X. Now I'm prompted as player 1 to enter the row of my choice, first, second, or third row. I'll choose the first row and the first column, and we see it displayed there. Now it's player 2's turn. So they're supposed to enter the row of their choice, just like player 1 did. I'll go ahead and enter second row, second column, and their character appears in the right spot. It's now player 1's turn, so let's go ahead and let player 1 choose first row, third column. Okay, now it's player 2's turn again. Let's go ahead and stop player 1 from winning and choose first row, second column. Now we have a winning move right here that could be made by player 2, but I'm going to go ahead and let player 2 maintain that winning move. So I'll choose third row, first column. And now as player 2, I can win the game by entering this spot on the board. So that'll be the third row, second column, and the appropriate message is displayed. Player 2 wins. I'm then prompted to either play again or not. I'll go ahead and say yes. Now it asks me once again if this will be a two-player game. I think we've already demonstrated how a two-player game works. So let's go ahead and do a one-player game. So I'm going to go ahead and type no for this, or enter no for that. Now we still get to we still have to flip a coin though to see if it'll be the program or if it'll be the player that gets to go first. I'll go ahead and choose heads for this for the coin flip. I've been told I've lost the toss, so now I must go second. Now but I still get to choose my character, so I'll go ahead and choose X as my character once again. As you can see, the board starts off with the computer already having made its move, or the program having already made its move. So now it's my turn. I'll choose the first row, first column, and as you can see, the program already made their move. The way this program was built was that if the program has a winning move to make, kind of like it does here, it's guaranteed 100% to make that winning move unless I stop it. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop it. I'm gonna go ahead and stop it this time. So it'll be the first row and the third column right here. So I'm stopping the program's winning move by doing that. Now as I did that, I created a winning move of myself. I'm sorry, for my own. And the program detected that I had a winning move to make on my next try, so it went ahead and stopped my winning move. Now it's my turn again. Now I'm gonna go ahead and choose this lower left corner. Now when I do that, it's gonna notice that I have a winning move to make right here, or that I have a winning move to make right here, which basically means the game's over, because I have two winning moves to make. The program cannot stop both of them. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this to win the game. So it'll be the third row, first column. It automatically prevented me from winning right here in this first column but I still have this option right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take that option. The appropriate message is displayed saying that I win, and it's asking me if I want to play again. I'll go ahead and say yes. One more time and make it a one-player game. One more time. I'll choose heads this time for the coin flip. This time I am the winner, so I go first. I'll choose X once again. I'll start with the first row, third column. Okay. So at this point, the program is just choosing random available spots. It still isn't. It's not really choosing anything that'll prevent me from winning or that'll win the game for the program. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose this lower left-hand corner, which means the program will automatically choose the center option. So this will be the third row, first column, and like I predicted, the computer went ahead and chose the spot that would prevent me from winning. Now I've got the computer or the program has a winning move to make, so I can either stop it right here, or I can demonstrate that if I don't prevent it from making that winning move, it's gonna make that winning move. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick the top left corner, and as a result, the program will 100% make the winning move right here and win the game. So I'm gonna pick the top left corner and show you that this program will make the winning move if it's got one available to make. So like I told y'all, it made the winning move right there. So yeah, let's go through this. Let's go through this code. It's asking me if I want to play again. I'll go ahead and say no and terminate the program. Okay. Right. So this is the main function here, where I'm running the program out of. Now, I've created a class 1 instance, which is the name of this class here. And I've named it instance, actually. So basically, this consists of a do-while loop that contains 2 do-while loops within it. The first inner do-while loop will only be entered if the Boolean 2 players is false. The other inner do-while loop will only be entered if that's not the case. If the 2 players method is found to be true or returns true. So let's inspect what the 2 players method does. Okay, here we have the method. It is a Boolean. It prompts the player to enter if this will be a 2-player game. It's either going to be yes or no. So the program will read the user's input, and if it is a capital Y or a lowercase y, the method will return true. Else it'll return false. So if it returns false, that means it'll be a 1-player game. So let's go ahead and go down that branch. We now enter into the welcome method. The welcome method will first clear the console. It'll then display the welcome message. Let's play tic-tac-toe. Let's flip a coin to decide who goes first. Enter H or T to make your choice. So this will be a random object that is created that'll mimic a coin flip. So the program will take the user's input for heads or tails, and then it'll use that to determine who goes first. So if result is 1, meaning if the coin flip or the mimicking of the coin flip results in 1, then we'll pretend that's heads. So if the result is 1 or heads and the choice made by the user is also heads, then obviously they've won the flip, and this message will be displayed. Congratulations, heads is the winner. You go first. At that point, the Boolean turn will be turned on. It'll be made true. At that point, the user will be prompted to enter X or O as their character. This do while loop will validate their input and make sure it is a proper input. After that, the computer variable, class variable, will be assigned the other option. So if the player chose a O or capital O or lowercase o as their option, then computer will be assigned capital X as their character, and player will be assigned capital O, just in case they chose a lowercase o. This will make it more aesthetic. Or the opposite can happen. If the player didn't choose O as their character and chose X, well, then the player will be assigned capital X as their character, and computer will be assigned capital O. And basically, we go through the different options or the different possibilities of this happening. So if result is 1, and the coin and the heads or the user's choice for the coin flip was heads, then what I just described would happen. Else, if the result was tails, and the user chose I'm sorry, if the result was heads and the user chose tails, then the proper message will be displayed saying that they lost the toss and they must go second. At that point, the Boolean turn is turned false, and we get the same thing over here, where the user gets to choose their character. So the user gets to choose a character regardless of winning or losing the coin flip, and then the computer or the program is given its character, and the player is giving the capitalized version of their character. Basically, the same thing happens, a similar thing happens if the result is 2 or tails, I guess would be what it represents. So if if the choice the user made is tails, then of course they win and they get to go first, and the Boolean is turned to true. And again, they get to also choose their character, and the program gets assigned its own character, the other character, and the player gets assigned the capitalized version of the character they chose. Else, they lost the coin toss, so the turn Boolean is turned false. It is not their turn. I'm sorry, indicating that it is not their turn. And same thing, we validate the user's choice of a character, and then we assign the program the other character and make sure it's capitalized in both cases. So that is the welcome method. After that, after the players have been assigned their character and the order of play, then we run the display method, which will display the board. Here it is. So it clears the console. It then runs 2 loops. So the inner loop will display the first array, representing the first line of the board. After that, we break line and stack the next one beneath it, and so on. So basically, this creates the traditional tic-tac-toe board. We make sure we add a space after each entry for aesthetic purposes. After that, we enter into the make move function. Okay. All right. So this, remember the welcome method over here, turned on or turn the Boolean on or off. So basically, if the Boolean turn is false, and that means it's the computer's turn to make a move. So at that point, this method, which I'll go into in a bit, will run, and it'll determine the computer's move, make the computer's move. At that point, the Boolean turn is flipped, and it is now turned on. Okay, so if it is not the program's turn, if it is the user's turn, we'll go into this now. So basically, this prompts the user to enter the row of their choice, and the program will take their input and store it in the row variable and in the column variable, respectively. After that, this while loop will validate the input, make sure that that it is at least that it is not less than 1 or greater than 3. When that happens, there's also a further validation that the choice was not already made by the user themselves or by the program. So if the user's choice is already taken, then the user is once again prompted to make a valid choice that isn't already taken. So at this point, it'll once again validate and make sure that the input is the numbers that are input are within the valid range. After all that validation, then we go ahead and assign the place in the board to we assign the character that the player was assigned or chose to the spot on the board that they've chosen. So that's basically them making a move. At that point, the Boolean turn is then flipped and made false. So to indicate that it is now the computer's or the program's turn to make a move. Once this happens, the game over function will be run, and that indicates if the game is over or not. So here's the game over function. Now, if the Boolean game over evaluates to false, it means the game is not over. So this inner while loop will keep iterating. All right, so what we just went over will keep happening over and over again until this function called game over, which is displayed here, evaluates to true. Now how would this evaluate to true? If any of these conditions are met. Basically, if we all know how to play tic-tac-toe, I assume. So if the player themselves has a straight line vertically, horizontally, or diagonally, the console will clear, and this message will be displayed on the screen. There will also be a file that the results are written onto that will indicate if the player won or lost, or if the game turned out to be a draw. Now I accomplished this by using StreamWriter, and it'll store the records in score records.txt within the project. Now, if the game is not over, the method will simply return false, and the while loop will keep running and until the game is finally over. Once the game is over, and one of these options, one of these if else statements are found to be true, well, then this loop will terminate, and then the program will jump to the final display, which would be exactly what it sounds like, the final display. It'll display the board, and then the play again method will run as well. Which will prompt the user to enter yes or no, and based on their input, the program will either terminate if they enter no, or will continue to run if the user enters yes. If the user enters yes, the board will also be restored to its initial value. And again, play again is a Boolean, and if it returns false, that means the user no longer wants to play and has terminated the program. If they enter yes, then that means the user will continue playing the game, which means that the program will continue to run, which means this do while loop will continue to iterate. Okay, so we just explained what would happen if the user decided to play a one-player game. If the user enters a one-player, the one-player option, it'll basically enter this inner while loop. Else, if they choose to play with somebody else, it'll enter this one. Now let's go ahead and inspect this one a little closer. So again, right, so the two players function is run. If the two players function or a method evaluates to true, that means they want to play with it'll be a two-player game. So this if statement will not be, we will not go into this if statement, which is what we just covered. We'll enter this else statement. Now in this else statement, we're going to go ahead and run a welcome to, which is a little different than the other welcome method we used. In welcome to, I mean, it is different, but it's very similar. It displays a welcome message, and it prompts the user to enter heads or tails for the simulated coin toss, which is represented by this random object. Now, if the result equals 1 and the choice made by player 1 equals heads, that means player 1 has won the toss, and turn will be true. The Boolean turn will be flipped on to true. At that point, like we've seen previously, the winner of the coin toss, player 1 in this case, will be prompted to enter their character, either O or X. At that point, the opposing player will be given the opposite character, and player 1, or the winner of the coin toss, actually will be given the choice of their own character, of the character they chose. Okay, so if, for instance here, if result is 1, that means it was heads, but player 1 chose tails, and that means player 2 gets to go first, because player 2 wins the toss. At that point, turn is assigned the value of false. So basically, when turn is true, it's player 1 turn. When turn is false, it is player 2's turn. At that point, the same do while loop, which asks a player for their character, will be run. But in this case, it'll be player 2 that gets to choose the character they want to use, and player 1 will be assigned the opposite since they lost the coin toss. So we do the same thing here, but this time it's we're dealing with the result being 2, meaning the coin flip resulting in tails. So yeah, so that's how we dictate which player gets assigned which character and which player gets to go first. Right, so this is all in the welcome to method. At that point, we enter this do while loop, which will use the display method that we've seen before. Now this simply just displays the board. At that point, we enter or we run the make move to method, which is similar to make move, but not quite the same. So if you remember the previously, if the turn boolean is turned on or equal to true, then it's player one's turn. If it is assigned false, it'll be player two's turn. Okay, so let's assume that its turn was assigned a true value, then that means it's player one's turn. This method will prompt the player one to enter the row in the column as input, and then that input will be assigned to the int row and int column variables. At that point, the variables will be validated to make sure they are within the acceptable range, and they will be validated to make sure that the spot on the board isn't already taken. If either of those things are not if the spot is already taken on the board, or if the user's input is out of range, they will enter these while loops that will only exit once they've entered valid input. At that point, once they've entered valid input, the spot on the board will be assigned the player's symbol, either X or O. And in this case, the boolean will be flipped. It'll be turned. It'll go from equaling true or being true to being false. We do the same thing, except to player two, if the turn evaluates to false. So this is how. So every time somebody takes their turn, at the end of their turn, the boolean turn is flipped to allow the other player to make their own move. Again, we got the same type of validation for the range, and the same type of validation for the to make sure that the spot on the board isn't already taken. So at that point, the game over two method is run. This is similar to game over method that we saw earlier, except it writes the results into a different file called scorerecords2.txt. Now, this method will analyze the arrays or the inner arrays, and if at any point someone has a winning move that they've made, if it's either the player one or player two that have made the winning move, or if it turns out to be a draw, then the console will clear, the appropriate message will be displayed on the screen, and the message will be printed into a file called scorerecords2.txt. At that point, if any of these possibilities turn out to be true, well, then the boolean method will return true. If none of these possibilities are true, well, then this method will return false. And if it returns false, the loop will continue to iterate until it iterates until it returns true at some point. After that, then the final display is shown, which basically just shows the final board. And the play again method here at the very, oh no. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, there you go. So right, so we finally get to this, to the play again method, which is found down here. It basically prompts the user to enter yes or no if they want to play again. If they enter the character Y, and that means yes, they do want to play again. And if that's the case, it'll return true, and it'll also clear the board and reinstate it to its to what its initial values were. Now, if they enter no, well then it'll return false. And if it returns false, the program no longer runs, and the user has made their choice. They no longer want to play, so the program terminates. The while loop or the do while loop is exited, and that's basically game over. All right, that's it. Thank you.